Hello. So we're going to look at the presentation rubric for University English 3B. We're going to go through the document that you will be able to find on Moodle. Look at all the important points, how you can score points. And by the end of this video, you will hopefully be able to score a much higher point score than before. And you will also understand what's expected in order to get those higher marks. Okay, so I'm going to share a few documents. Here is the presentation rubric. So it's divided into parts. This is what I use when I watch your presentation. It's scored either quite simply yes if you satisfy this part, or maybe a little bit you satisfy it, then you'll get the middle score there. It's either 1 or 2. So yes is either 2 or 4, depending on how important that particular part is, and no is a 0, of course. Although you can get a 1. Yeah, I think that's maybe a mistake. I'll change that to a 0. Okay, so let's go through piece by piece. I'm going to divide this into several videos just to make it easier to digest and easier to upload. Starting with the introduction, some simple things really. Clear and warm greeting. That's very simple. All you have to say is good morning, thank you for coming, or good afternoon. Thank you for your time. Introduce yourselves. And that's all you need to do. 2 points. Very easy. Topic next. The introduction obviously introduces the topic, greets the audience, introduces the topic. Now, there are several ways to introduce the topic, right? So remember that a big part of your assessment is making your presentation interesting. So if we look at the model presentation, the model report that we are working from, if we're going to use this as the basis for our presentation. Now, if I introduce a topic and I say, good morning, thank you for coming. My name's Dean, and today I'm going to talk about the global plastic crisis and see whether there is a solution. Then it might be clear, but it could be clearer, and it's not very interesting. So there are other ways to introduce the topic. So, for example, we could ask a question. Questions make it more interesting and engaging with the audience. So that could be one way. If you look at the rubric, we're getting into hooks now. Hooks are like fishing lines, fishing hook the audience in, get their interest and engage the audience. So questions can do that. So my question for this topic, for example, could be, when was the last time you bought a plastic bottle? How many times in a week do you think you buy plastic bottles? How many times in your lifetime do you think you have bought plastic bottles? What percentage of those plastic bottles do you think have ended up in the sea? What has happened to those plastic bottles? Giving people time to think is important as well. So hopefully are engaging them by personalizing the topic, but also giving them time to really reflect on their own personalization of the topic. So that's one way of doing it. There are other ways that we will discuss in class, but try and make it interesting. You could also hint. Another method would be hinting. So you could simply ask, what do you think is, oh, today we are going to talk about something that affects the health of the human race, not just the human race, but also seabirds, fish, and the fishing industry. Today we are going to talk about the ocean plastic crisis. Okay, so that's it. Try and make it interesting. And if you do that, it actually becomes clearer. So the two things are connected. Clarity comes through people waiting for what you're going to say. If you just say it, they'll miss it. But if you wait, they will say it, and you will ensure that you get four. If they wait, they will hear it clearer. So you will get 4 points. Okay, and then moving on, the next thing that an introduction should do is explain, similar to your report, it should explain the thesis. So what are you going to do in the report, in the presentation? So again, going back to this. So first, I will look at the problem and the cause of the problem. Then I will look at the effects of the problem and explain exactly why it's a problem. And then we will discuss some solutions to the problem. Okay, let's begin. So that is what we call a thesis or a menu of what's coming up next. If you do that, you will get 4 points if it's clear. The importance and relevance of the topic is made clear. So again, personalizing it helps, but in the same way that your report showed the size of the problem and put the problem in context, your presentation introduction should do the same. We do that maybe through data. So here, according to Statista, 300 plastic bottles were made in 2021. Sorry, in 2004. And yet by 2021, 580 billion bottles were made. So we can see an increase of nearly 100% over a 17-year period. So an amazing amount. And where does this plastic go? Well, we will look at that problem in our presentation today. Okay, so a few things there. The functions of the introduction introduce the topic, but we do it in an interesting way to get maximum points. The other thing to say which direction the presentation is going to do after, and we do that with a menu or the thesis statement. And finally, the importance of the problem is made clear, maybe through data or some kind of asking the audience to imagine a situation. If you're dealing with the safety in AI cars, for example, imagine a situation where, okay, and that will bring you maximum points if you do that. Moving on, we are going to look at the body section. So first one there is transition language. Actually, transition language is much easier when you're presenting in pairs or threes, because you will hand over to other people, and that is your transition. Transitions indicate the end of one part moving into the next part. So you might divide your presentation. First, I'll talk about the causes of the problem. After that, I will talk about the effects of the problem. The causes of the problem. You speak for a few minutes, the causes of the problem, explain the cause of the problem. Okay, that's all I have to say about the causes of the problem. I will now pass over to Yusuke, who will explain the effects. There's not always a handover, it could just be you. So you could be talking about more than one solution. You say, okay, well, that's one solution that I've described. I will now look at another possible solution to this problem. Those transition languages, let the audience know one part has finished, the next part is starting. Try to divide your presentation into clear points between speakers. So don't have one person talking about one topic. So, for example, if we go to the plastic, we say, I'm going to talk about the possible solution called the ocean cleanup. It has a two-step approach. First, it started to collect plastic and microplastic. They collect it from the ocean, from the garbage patch, and the system, it actually has four stages. So they collect the sea from the largest area of plastic. Now I'm going to hand over to Yusuke, who's going to describe step 3 and step 4. See, that's too close together. You should be describing step 3 and step 4, and then Yusuke can talk about the results or the consequences. Or even Yusuke can talk about the second possible solution to the problem. Don't have the transition so on information that is too close together. Have distinct points between the two of you. Your presentation needs to show your research. So interesting figures, data, and examples. Don't have data and graphs in Japanese. This is an English presentation. You will lose marks if I can't read the data. Also, keep your data simple. Sometimes just numbers are better than complicated graphs. Just because you understand them, maybe you've looked at them for longer. We have like a few seconds to look at them. They need to be very easy to understand, but they need to be there as well. Okay, and the body sections need to follow the thesis. So if you say we're going to look at 3 solutions in the introduction, we need to hear about 3 solutions in your presentation. It needs to match what you tell us you're going to say. Okay, that's the end of the first video. I will next talk about the next part of the rubric in the second video.